Welcome to another tutorial, and in this one it's Blender 2.69 through to 2.718 to do patching of those chroma keys that have got holes. And we've just done a basic chroma key, and we'll go roughly and quickly to set that up. We'll go to our movie clip editor and open the video that we have saved off. Just a few, like there we are. We've got lots of uneven colour, splotchy, dark and all sorts of things, but we then go off to our node editor, make sure our use nodes and backdrop are on. We won't need this one. We will need to input the movie clip that we have just done. If you want to see that, you will then have a viewer and connect it there just to see what it's like, and the V key to make the backdrop go out. Composite will go over here. Then we will need to have a matte keying node, put that on top. We can select the eyedropper and select a color to disappear that color. I'm going to then take my matte and feed it to the viewer so I can see the alpha channel. I'm going to increase my black clip up to get rid of as much of the whites as I can. Down the white so I can get rid of a little bit of that there. It's not bad actually. I'll probably get away with having no holes in this one if I really mucked around with it a bit, but for this exercise I want to show you how we're going to patch holes like that. I'm also going to put the edge, the despeckling, to get rid of all those little spots and speckles everywhere. And now we've got a hole here that we're going to now work on patching. Put it back color wise, and you'll see we'll also erode it a couple of pixels, 3 pixels, and a bit of blur on the outside matte. Now normally we could just then add an input image, for example, or movie clip, and then add a color mix node or alpha over. We'll put a mix, and then connect the chroma key to the foreground and the image to the background, connect the mix node to the viewer, and then go and open a video, a picture. Right, so there we have a picture. We have little holes here. Now we could just do it like this, but I find if I'm going to do several patch ups, I can like fixing his eyebrows and his coat, and there might be something else and a piece over here. I actually prefer to not use a background and do several passes. By putting in a background like this, in this case it's white, I'll turn it to complete blue by downing the red to 0, green to 0, and I will get a perfect blue. So now I can see where my holes are and what I'm working with. Okay, and if I go Alt V, I can go in. You can see I've got lots of holes appearing there. I could probably get rid of those, but for this exercise I won't. And we can then basically save that off so that I can now work with this one by going to my parameters, put it up to full. My frame rate is okay, and down to, I'm going to make a PNG sequence, and I'm going to make G, and I'm going to make a new directory and call it 1A because I'm working on, the sequence was in A, as you can see here. This was the sequence, but I'm going to now make another sequence, the next one, and call it 1A, and it's going to accept that and then render off that animation. Make sure that my mixer is connected into my composite out node so that it's going to actually render, and in this one up here I'm going to turn that into my viewer just to make sure I can see what it's rendering. Render, and I'll see that yes, that's the size and shape and everything that my render is going to be, and it's got a nice solid blue background, and those holes are appearing there, and now I can render that sequence off into that folder. The reason why I'm going to do it with this blue background, there's a piece, as you can see here in the corner, I want to get rid of in his coat and his eyebrows. So there's multitudinous things I want to do rather than just one little quick fix up. Therefore, when I chroma key it out again, because this is pure blue, it will chroma out quite quickly and easily later on. And doing a PNG sequence, it's not going to lose much resolution, so I'll come back when that's rendered. So there I have it all rendered out as with a nice blue background here. So I want to go back to my movie clip editor and import that clip, open the clip, go up 1A, and open that, and here I have my clip all nice and blue with my holes and this problem over here, and his eyebrows are a problem also. So what I want to do, I can now go to this button here and go to mask, and it's going to open up some parameters for me here, but what I want now is to go control left click, and it will make a point. Holding down the control, I want to go in an anti-clockwise direction to then make a mask, and then to close that mask I'm going to go Alt C and it will close. I can then pick up those points with my mouse click and move it to where I want. I can also, like Bezier curves, grab those handles and move them around until I've got them on top of the patch that I want to make. I'm going to go up to the top here. Oh, there's another thing too that you can do, is do the shift and right click and drag it out, and you'll get this green line coming out. That's feathering. That becomes very useful for later on when you're doing really good keying and rotoscoping, but we won't look at that right at the moment. This is our basic patch, and that's all we need for the moment. I'm going to go to the top here and grab this bar and drag it down, then go to this button and go to Dope Sheet. Across here to Dope Sheet window thingy here, I'm going to go to Mask, so that I now have a place where I'm going to see my keys. I can scroll in here and see my situation here, and then I'm going to push while I've got my cursor on this window, the I key, and it gives me a keyframe here. So now I can move through, and then I can adjust my mask, and then I again, and it will make another keyframe, and it will animate it for me. Now there is an easier way rather than doing those. If you right click on that and it turns orange, delete the keyframe, that will be fine. Okay, we're going to now make it easier for ourselves by joining this mask to a track point. By going over here, we can go to tracking, open this little side panel here by that plus sign, add a marker, and I'm going to add it somewhere like down here on this thing here. Over on this panel we're centered up pretty good by clicking on that and moving it around, but I want to go see the search under markers display, see the search, and it will show me here. I'm going to go down to the marker panel here and actually by dragging across make that a little bit bigger, so it's going to track it a little bit easier, and also the tracking box, search box should I say. Then back to the top, and then I think I'll go back to my first frame and then position it by dragging it there and finally tuning it here, and then clicking this button here, and it will track forward. You can see those little red points, it's tracking that point. Now if it loses it, this will turn orange, and then you can reposition it, like there it is, it just lost it, so we can go back with the key with my arrow keys until I get to the last place where it was on. Then the next one I can reposition it and start it again. There's another thing to take into consideration, is the tracking settings. Normalizing it helps sometimes to get it to track better. And you can see here it's tracking not too badly now. And it just lost it to that's the end of the sequence. So there, it's all nicely tracked. Looks pretty good. Now with that selected, I'm going to go back to my mask thingy here, and I'm going to open those panels a bit further so I can see what I'm doing. Then when I've got my mask where I basically want it, just adjusting it, and it's going to have to be way down to here, I think, using those Bezier curves. Right. I then make sure pushing the A key will deselect that mask, and selecting it again will select all. And then if I go Control P, I can parent it to this tracking point, so that now when I move the tracking point, now the mask will move with that tracking point. You can see it's moving, and that saves you a lot of time, because it will now move the majority of it, and then at different times you can then just do some little adjustments, like maybe here I will then push the I key, make an in point, and then move it some more, a few frames, and then I can adjust it, and I go along a few more until I get to a point where I need to adjust it, and another key point, put in there, and you can go through and just do minor adjustments to the mask when it is going awry, and that's not bad at all. But for this exercise I'm not going to be too precise, just to give you the idea. Letter I, letter I again, and all you're doing is doing minor adjustments to your mask, right? Then when you have gone through, and you've gone through from the beginning and tracked it through, made it so that your mask, see, that's going to have to go way down to here, that's an I there, back some more, okay. Okay, you get the idea. Right, let's go back then to our node editor, and now we are going to, we won't need this for the moment, but we will need the actual picture itself. We will need to go and get the adding input movie clip, the new movie clip that we made, and that will be the one with the blue background here, connected into the background of the mix node. And then this top one here, the bottom, this one is on top of the other, so you're still getting this background here, you see. If I go down to add input and a mask, here it is here, I can then put that up at the top and select the mask that we have made, and then connect it into this button called factor, FAC factor, and it will now use that mask. And you will notice that the original one here of the unkeyed video is now patched on top of the keyed video, and now we can go and render that out. Similarly, if this piece over here, there's a piece over here, we could mask that, and we can now render that one out. And if I set it to the same one, A1, and then go animation, it will then render that sequence back on top of the sequence that we have already got here, so it's going to replace those with the fixed one. Being PNGs, it is lossless, and so therefore it is going to just keep pasting those over, and I won't lose any resolution at all. All it is that it'll take some time, of course. But if you've got a slow computer, this is excellent because you can just go through a number of passes, take a while over it, but crunch it through, and you can still get it done even with a slow computer. So you can see it is now patching over those holes with a patch from the original. We let that crunch through, and I'll catch you when it's done, and then we'll look at his eyebrows. And so here we are, we have managed to patch all that, and if we go back to our movie clip editor to check that, you'll find that if we select this one with the background there and clip reload the clip, you'll find that it's all patched up and nice looking. You see, all nicely done. Now we want now to look at his eyebrows. Let's go back to number 1, frame number 1, and then I'm going to take my tracking point by going to the tracking and put it up on his eyeball, for example, and then I'm going to retrack that of his eyeball. You can see it's quite good, and once we've tracked that, I'll get back to you. And there, I needed readjusting. Right. And there we have it basically tracked. Then I'm going to go back to masking with this button down here, mask, and there you can see the mask has now followed, and I can select shift select all of those and delete them, and then I can now readjust my mask around where I think the eyebrows are going to be. And then the I key to put it in a key point. Right, there's my key point that I've now got it established. If I go back down to this box and select this arrow and go to the first one as my original, you can see the original is a lot more fluffy. So I can now have it follow that around, and if I need to adjust it at any time, I can also do those minor adjustments like there, and well, there it needed a little adjustment there. Now that we can go back to our, that's looking right, back to our node editor. Here we have the original. You can see the patch that it's now making. Now we need to bring our keying node back in, and what we want to do is actually, let's go V'ing in a bit, Alt V, we need to adjust our parameters so that I'm going to reduce the black clip, and we can have a different keying parameters for this patch than we did for the entire one, and that's why it basically disappeared before and got eaten into, because of exactly that. The parameters that you needed for this fluffy piece of eyebrow here was different from the majority of the rest of the background. So now I have a patch with a key of that eyebrow with a different set of parameters, and now I can go back to the animation one, making sure that nothing has changed, that I'm now going to save it back to the same image sequence, which is very nice, and then go back to rendering that out by pushing the animation button. So now we have patched over here. We are now working on getting a better eyebrow, and later we can put a patch or we could actually do it at the same time by adding in another node branch and do it at the same time if your computer is fast enough. But for slow computers, you can just do several passes like I'm doing now. So when that's rendered out, I'll get back to you again. And then last of all, let's go back to the movie clip editor and select that tracking point by going to the blue one, 1A, and there it is, and just delete it by selecting delete the track, and then back to the mask, and then we can go A deselects, A selects all, the G key will then allow me to move it around by like grab, and then I can put a mask on here to get rid of that point there, and I won't need any keys at all, so I'm going to delete those, delete them, and it'll just sit there, because if I go back to my node editor again, it will put a patch there, but I'm not going to have the key here. I'm going to disconnect the old one because I'm going to leave the video in the background, and then I'm going to then make the patch blue. So there we are. Then render that one out to the same sequence, and there we will have a nice clean plate. We'll have the good figure, no problems, good eyebrows, no blobs or anything anywhere, and it's nicely patched. Now I'll just interrupt that by doing escape to say, right, once we have that rendered out again, we can now take that node, the keying node, and put it in here, and put a background on top, on bottom, without the mask, and then we have our key. The parameters for this key, if I zoom in with my scroll button here, or look over here, I can actually go down very low so that I will get none of those blues that are actually in the coat here. None of those will disappear. And I will also select the perfect blue here, and so that I can have very narrow tolerances here. I can have virtually almost no black clip, because the if I look here on the viewer, the matte, the alpha matte, because it's a nice very flat and very low tolerance blue, it will disappear immediately, and I won't have to put that black clip up, so it's not going to clip out or disappear those holes there, because I'm only disappearing that very flat blue. So it's looking pretty good and ready to render out into a video. So reset another directory, create a new directory, 1B for example, and go into that one and call it 1B, and accept that and render it out as your either an image sequence or a video if you wish to. We could do some color balancing things on that, which we'll look at in the next tutorial probably.